Welcome back to DXB today. Great to have your company this evening as we're trying to tap into your long-term success. How? Well, relying on yourself, self-reliance, mental strength, and other key factors as well. Next guest is passionate about child and adult mental health and is the Director of Corporate Services and Mental Health First Aid at the LightHouse Arabia. And a welcome to the show. Thanks so much indeed for being with us.
Thank you. It's a privilege. It's great to be here with you all.
Great to have you on board, especially for such a topic that is so close to your heart. I just, again, as I was saying to Maha, what's your take? How do you define self-reliance?
Self-reliance, I think it's about building trust in yourself. And in order to build trust in yourself, you've really got to know yourself. And then you can make the decisions, you can stand by your decisions. And I think when you truly know yourself, your authentic self, it becomes a lot easier. And then you can show up when times are difficult. You can be more agile, as you mentioned. It's really around tapping into that inner journey, I would say.
First of all, I love that. What are some things you can do or teach people to do today to kind of figure out what it is that they stand for or who they get that mental toughness or that self-awareness?
Yeah, I love that question. I would say instead of me saying, do this, because everyone wants a quick fix.
Yep.
You know, everybody wants, what can I do in 10 seconds and it's going to work. I would say take some time with yourself. We are so busy. We're in a world that is constantly moving. We are running. We are future oriented. And we never actually take time to sit down and say, how am I really doing today? So I would say turn inwards, pause, take some time out, solitude by yourself, whether it's journaling, talking to yourself, talking to someone else, a professional, for example, whatever it is, but really checking in with the stillness that's around us. Because if we don't highlight what we're doing wrong, we can't really know where we want to be. So look at the habits you want to change, look at the lifestyle that you're having, and ask yourself, am I chasing the next big thing? Like, do I always think this sense of happiness is in front of me? Or can I look around me and say, I'm actually quite content with what I already have? So I would say go back to the basics. There's no quick fix.
How much time do I need to sit in stillness every day?
Well, that depends what we're trying to change, I guess. I would say start small. You know, usually where people go wrong, in my opinion, is we try and change our big habits. We say, you know, I'm after listening to that, I absorbed this information, now I'm going to change. And we take on so much and we fail. And then the end of the day, the week, the year, and we say, it's going to be next year, it's going to be my year, you know? So I would say, look at micro habits. Like, how can I make my work 10% better? How can I make my morning routine 5% better? How can I reduce my media use or whatever unhealthy numbing strategies that we might use? How can I slightly change those? Because it is the accumulation of micro habits, in my opinion, that have the big impact.
Advice.
Yeah, that's wonderful advice, because what I've found recently as well, I like that thing that you said about talking to yourself. I do that quite often. people, if only they could see, they would feel like this guy's crazy. But what I find is I need to start being kinder to myself. So I would do something, I'll drop something and I'll be like, oh, you idiot. You know what I mean? And I'm insulting myself and it doesn't really make any sense, really. And I've started to try and change that. Would you say that's a thing where you say you need to start looking insular?
Absolutely. What I would say is we got to type into the different voices that are in our heads. You know, we all have them. It's like this internal board, and I visualize my own all sitting around a table, and I have the inner critic that you just mentioned maybe. I have the wise adult, I have the cheeky child, I have the rebellious one, the jealous one. And it isn't about blocking out all of those voices. It's actually about diving into them, listening to them, dialoguing with them, but then deciding, I hear you, but I'm going to go with the wise adult. And unless, as you said, we start being more kinder to ourselves, we're never really going to tap into that, because our brains are very associative devices. So if you go with that voice, the voice that says, you know, I did this wrong, I'm bad, I'm never going to be good enough, that's the path that your brain will follow. So you've got to say, wait a second, even if I don't believe it, I'm going to change the language. I'm going to give my brain something to be attracted to, and then you will notice the difference. But you've got to want to do it, and it's not easy. I always say it's not easy, and we are surrounded by so much noise and distractions that it can be quite difficult to do the work. Nobody wants to do the work.
And I'm going to switch things up a bit to
Please.
mental strength and the workplace. I mean, your position, the Director of Corporate Services in Mental Health First Aid in the UAE, I'm guessing it's not a common role here in the UAE in many companies, right? How important is it for companies to have their employees a bit more aware of their mental strength and their, excuse me, aware of their mental strength and their any struggles? Because the last thing anyone at the workplace would want to do is admit that they're mentally struggling, right? How important is it for companies to face this?
Exactly. I love this question. I think it's really important that we educate ourselves. You know, we're no longer ticking boxes, going into companies and saying we're going to do a group activity, we're going to do a well-being check. Those things are great, by the way, I'm not dissing them. But it's about really saying, why are we doing this? And a lot of it is building psychological safety. Psychological safety is known as one of the key indicators in high-performing productive teams. Psychological safety is when a team can walk into their office and say, I feel safe to ask questions, I feel safe to admit my mistakes, I can speak back to my manager and say I disagree with you without the fear of being prosecuted in any way. So building that mental health literacy, like the shared language, opening the door, it's okay to be a bit vulnerable, it's okay to talk about these things. It has a ripple effect, but it has to start at the top. You know, we can't expect teams to just show up and say, I'm going to give everything, I'm going to be myself and be honest, because they need to know that whoever they're being that vulnerable in front of is going to also open that door. So I would say it starts at the top, but it has a ripple effect if we dive into it.